It's time for the State of Pro Wrestling, scheduled for one fall with a 60-minute time limit. And now, from parts unknown, your tag team champions of the world, John Orlando from the PVD Cast and Gerald Glassford from the Pop Culture Cosmos. And we're back with another State of Pro Wrestling right here at the Pop Culture Cosmos. Truly appreciate you joining us. If you're listening to us on any audio podcast outlet, please give us that 5-star review wherever you get your podcasts. Also, shout out to the radio stations around the world that play us on an every week basis right there at the Pop Culture Cosmos. And of course, if you're on YouTube, please go ahead, like and subscribe today to get the latest notifications on when we go live on the air with the latest PCC Multiverse, Inside Sports Fantasy Football, the Pop Culture Cosmos, and of course, the State of Pro Wrestling, indeed. But it wouldn't be a State of Pro Wrestling without my tag team partner. There you go, tagging them in. It is the man behind, of course, everything going on with the PVD Cast, the PVDcast.com. Also, as well, Matt Talk for your latest, not that Matlock, but the other Matlock, the older Matlock, the one Kathy Bates joked about on the Matlock Show. It is, of course, my good friend at ease. Indeed, it is, of course, my tag team partner in crime, my fellow heel, John Orlando. And John, great to have you here. First up, what are you dressing for? I know this is for November, and this will probably, when it airs in audio, probably be already done with. But Halloween, what did you have in mind for Halloween? I bet it's something pro wrestling related.
You know, actually, I actually did Mil Mascaras one year, a really good one, because I have the mask, obviously.
So a legendary figure who everybody in the U.S. as far as wrestles with him doesn't like because he doesn't really sell that much.
Right, exactly.
But he is a legend in his own country, and I have to give him mucho respect for that. Absolutely a legend in his industry. So,
but I'll be honest, I don't have a costume yet. I know I'm running real late to the because part of the problem was that I was supposed to go to a party a couple weekends ago, and the host came down with COVID. So then I was like, oh, I'll just put that to the side. You know how it is. I'll put that on the to-do list, and now the to-do list is, the deadline's creeping up on that to-do list is what I'm saying.
As someone who ran a Halloween store for 4 years, the first thing I tell people is get your costumes early. If you have something in mind, get it in August or September, because you most likely will be out of luck if you get it late. So. But I have a feeling the evil mind of John Orlando will have something working indeed.
I'll come up with something. For that, because I can't just be me handing out candy to the neighborhood kids. It's got to be.
Well, I was just going to be I was just going to be me, but with a face hugger, because the Alien movie that just came out, Alien Romulus, just like that, just with sucking on me like that on my face and all that. So yeah, just a normal outfit and just there you go. But I don't think I'll be scaring any kids this Halloween. But I digress on that. It is, of course, the State of Pro Wrestling. It is John Orlando with me, Gerald Glassford. Thanks again for watching this thing. We're going to get into the nitty gritty here with what's going on with AEW. The fallout from Wrestle Dream and the future for Bryan Danielson. Was his send-off the right send-off? I know that John wanted to discuss that. What's going on with WWE as far as the upcoming matches that they have? The champion versus champion. I'll call it the Monday champion versus the Friday champion for both the men and the women. Is it really necessary? Is it really something that we're going to be interested in? Is it going to help everyone involved? And also as well, the Bloodline feud. Indeed, we'll go ahead and discuss that here in a moment. Big shout out to the Motor City Machine Guns as well for getting the World Tag Team Championships immediately upon their arrival in the WWE. You don't see that kind of push right away. So yeah, congratulations to them guys that have just toiled throughout the Indies and TNA and all sorts of other places or for decades now, and finally getting their opportunity at the spotlight. And I'm very happy for them indeed. But Also, we'll talk about, speaking of wrestlers, our worst wrestlers list. I still got to go ahead through. I'm combing through. I'll be on another tab here on my list. I know that John is hurriedly trying to do that as well. Plus, I have a recommendation for you, John.
Oh,
A very strong recommendation for you out there as well on a YouTube channel, possibly the best wrestling channel out there outside of ours. That'll be coming up in a bit as well. But John, okay, let's get into it with AEW. I know AEW, they,
uh,
well, it's this love and hate affair with them. You know, a lot of people are just like, oh, people are trashing on AEW. People are trashing on AEW. Well, again, a lot of people are making their living off of trashing AEW and making a good living at that. Much better sometimes than the individuals inside AEW. But with their sliding ratings aside, they do have that brand new agreement with Warner Brothers for if they're, what they're going to go ahead and do as far as Max, TNT, TBS going forward, the huge agreement that they have, speculated between 150 and 180 million dollars per year. Your mileage may vary on whoever, information that you want to agree with. The booking is still something I find very troubling. And you know what? I don't say this with any glee that I want AEW to fail or anything like that. I do want AEW to succeed. It is better for the individuals in the company or in companies like this to succeed because of the fact it provides more opportunity. But be that as it said, there's Wrestle Dream. You had one of the greatest wrestlers in the past 20 years, Brian Danielson. Basically, he was the AEW world champion, and if he said he ever lost the title, he would be having his needed surgeries and then probably never be a full-time wrestler ever again. So with that, he did end up losing at Wrestle Dream to John Moxley, gave up the title, but after got destroyed by the BCC or whatever it is they're called these days. I forget whatever, they just go around in a truck, I think, at this point in time. But, he got absolutely, okay, he gets beat. It was his call, I'm sure, when he wanted to get beat. But then he gets beaten down to a pulp and taken out on a stretcher in his home state of Washington. I mean, this is something out of Vince McMahon syndrome as far as the way he used to have the hometown favorite always get beat in his hometown. It's just like something that was done with glee there. But your thoughts on this, how poorly it was handled? A lot of people gave a lot of pushback on it. I understand that Brian Danielson will come back at some point in time on a part-time basis to avenge what happened, but this whole scenario with Brian Danielson getting the title, then having a bag put over his head and supposedly it being incapacitated, but he couldn't defend the title the next month at Arthur Ashe Stadium, but somehow miraculously could still wrestle in a match against Nigel McGuinness. Nobody's been ever able to tell me about how that works out like that, John. Plus the fact that Darby Allin gave up his automatic shot at the title to John Moxley, so John Moxley could go ahead and end up winning, and then winning the title after that. And then afterwards, again, they put Wheeler Yuta, who had been, I guess, on the fringe. Will he? Won't he? Whose side is he on? We found out he's on the side of evil, and gave and put the bag over, of course, Brian Danielson's head once again. It's just not good, my friend. It's just not good. It's just not compelling. And if you're a casual fan, I don't know if I can really recommend watching it right now because the fact I just don't think the direction is very cohesive or very conclusive at that.
well, I totally agree with you on everything that you said, Gerald. Here's my problem. You want Danielson wants to lose it to Moxley, fine. Okay,
Yeah.
I got no problem with that. That's fine.
No, nor do I, by the way.
Yeah, but the idea, the old adage is send the folks home happy. And you didn't do that with all the Wheeler Yuta and the bag over the head and all that junk. And then send anybody home happy. It's made a lot of people angry. There was a lot of chatter all over the internet, social media and whatnot, that there were a lot of fans in attendance that were not happy. They were absolutely just disgusted with the finish, because why not? Why not let Danielson loses? Okay, fine. Perfect way to book it. You have you to come out, you to turns on him, but you get the opportunity to see Brian Danielson beat back the BCC to leave on his own 2 feet, so to speak. And I feel like that's what everybody wanted. That's what everybody needed to see. And for some odd reason, we went a total 180 into this beatdown that just seemed to go on forever and just did nothing for the storyline whatsoever. Now, I will say this. I feel like the bag over the head beforehand, I can get with that. I know some people were like, well, they did it twice. I agree. That second one they shouldn't have done. But the first one, fine. They're trying to make the BCC be these ultra heels. I get it. That's fine. But again, also within the timing of that, you have this match against Nigel. And why did Nigel get a match against Danielson? That's what I mean. That was kind of cloudy. And maybe I missed an episode of Dynamite where they explain that. I don't know,
Well,
but
they don't explain the long history. See, if you were a casual fan, you would have never known they had this long history in ROH previously, because ROH has been almost a non-factor entirely once Tony Khan has bought it. I don't even know what they're doing with it at this point in time. It's ridiculous. I mean, I don't know. It just, and then again, Nigel McGuinness has had for on his commentary this disdain for Danielson for all this time, and you're supposed to know that he has this disdain, but for a casual fan and a casual member of the audience, they have no clue what's going on. And the problem is, with all these storylines being so incomplete, being so sloppily done, the storytelling, it's just not cohesive. You still don't have a clue if you're a casual fan on what's going on.
oh, absolutely. No, completely. Just the thing is, they got to stop booking for the internet fans. They have to stop that. You are a multi-million-dollar company. You have a great agreement with Time Warner, albeit maybe not what they
They've got
wanted.
3 years guaranteed, John.
Yeah, exactly. You got 3 years guaranteed, which is amazing. And you got to do something with this. You got to make it for the casual fans. You got to make it something that the casual fan is going to enjoy, and something that the diehards are going to enjoy as well. And I don't know. I would say that you could start booking your Dynamite like an old episode of Nitro. Have something right out of the gates that's super awesome. Let Hologram and the Beast, what's his name, Toros, yeah,
Mortos.
have those guys go out first and tear the roof down, and then that's how you get people into the show, and then go from there with very well constructed storylines. Like the storyline with MJF makes no sense either. He's coming back and he's gonna feud with Adam Cole. What? Adam Cole's been gone for forever. Why do we even care about this? And
Yeah.
and the other thing that I saw today is they have some TikTok superstar that's going to be at Full Gear. Why? Why are we doing this?
The Costco guy.
Yeah. What I don't. I'm not on TikTok. I don't know much about it. But yeah, I think his name is the Costco guy. Which
Yes.
I don't like. You're going to put that on Full Gear. That's going to take the spot of somebody who deserves to be on the show. It's going to be one of 13 matches, and one that we probably don't even need. And what's the point? What is the point? But if they do a better job of promoting this match than any other match on the show, I'll eat my hat. There you go. There's my challenge to Tony Khan. Make me eat my hat.
So with that, AEW, again, a lot of challenges up ahead. And again, we spent all this whole time criticizing about their storytelling. I don't want that to take away from the great in-ring action and the effort they continue to put out. I mean, they have a roster of over 200 individuals, many of whom are very talented, many of whom are really deserving of the spotlight that hopefully they will get going forward, because the talent-wise and in-ring wise, it can be at times a really good product to watch. They do get a little repetitive as far as their style of matches. They go to the same things, the side of the apron. They go to the mano a mano, punch each other. Oh. They do cater to the crowd sometimes a little bit too much, because it becomes repetitive in so many of the different matches that they have. But at its peak, they do have some of the most talented wrestlers on the planet there, and I'm just hoping that they're given better platforms to succeed in front of larger and larger audiences. But that's the problem. The audiences aren't always getting larger. In a lot of cases, especially on the road during the house shows or their TV tapings, it's getting smaller and smaller, John.
They're coming to Columbus, December 7th. Yes, December 7th. They're going to be here, and I'm haven't really seen anybody advertising that outside of what they announced on Dynamite. But I haven't heard radio spots here in town yet. I haven't seen. I don't know if they're. We still have a newspaper, but there's not been anything mentioned in that. I mean, you're coming in, and I know people go, well, John, December 7th is a long time ago. It's not. It's not a long time. It'll be here before you know it. That's only about 5.5 weeks away. And if you want to draw a crowd, I think you need to start promoting. And there's no excuse for Tony Khan not saying he doesn't have the money to promote. He's got the money to promote this event.
Once again, it is the state of pro wrestling. It is John Orlando from the PVD cast, along with me, Gerald Glassford. Thanks so much again for watching, listening. Truly appreciate it. So, from the bashing of AEW, again, I don't like doing it. I don't enjoy doing it because the fact is that I would like it to succeed. Despite itself, in many ways, it has succeeded, but in many ways, right now, I have some concerns going forward. The WWE, still status quo, going steady, and that's what they need to do. They're just going steady, going smooth. Things are upcoming for them as far as heading back to Saudi Arabia, upcoming for their next PLE event in early November before they go to the traditional Survivor Series, which I know is always a favorite of everyone's out there. But with that said, my friend, in the WWE, the major storylines before we get into the next Premium Live event and talk about that, when it comes to the bloodline, and the bloodline seems to be a great big topic with Roman Reigns coming back, the Usos reuniting, facing off against Solo Sikoa and his guys. As far as it's concerned, the battle between the bloodline. I think when they created the bloodline concept in the first place, I don't even think they even knew that they could make it last this long. It's not necessarily fresh, but it's entertaining enough to watch. And really, that's all that matters, John. That's all that matters.
Well, I think, and we're looking at Survivor Series as obviously being the 4-on-4, teams of four try to settle the score type of deal, where you're going to have, Tongaloa, Tama Tonga, Jacob Fatu, and Solo Sikoa on one side, and then the Usos and Reigns on the other. And I'm sure that this is not earth shattering for me to say that I'm pretty certain that probably the fourth member of Roman's team is going to be, of course, Sami Zayn, given the history that he had in the bloodline and in that storyline. I think we're going to see that. But I actually think, Gerald, that we're still going to see a little bit more of this bloodline. I can see it stretching to Mania, maybe, depending on who else gets involved.
Because I don't think they should do a rubber match right away for Cody Rhodes and Roman Reigns. I don't think that should be the main event for it. May end up being, because they have 2 nights here in Vegas. I still trying to figure out if I can still make it there. That would be awesome if I can, but we'll see. They're already the 2-day tickets are already on sale. If you're interested, head on down to your local WWE ticket shops in order to go ahead and get the tickets today for that. But Crown Jewel is coming up. They've decided to focus in on other angles for that, but yes, the bloodline, they can still space that out and keep it, as far as a life in and of itself. So yeah, that can continue on. They're not doing anything with Crown Jewel with the bloodline. They're going to keep that probably based here on SmackDowns going forward here in the U.S. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how they will continue that storyline with the bloodline. But speaking of Crown Jewel, which will be available for you guys out there to watch early November, in fact, the 2nd, in fact, right around when the time this will air on audio and radio stations around the world, Cody Rhodes will be a champion. It's a champion versus champion, but it's not for the championship, okay?
No, it is. It's the Crown Jewel Championship.
Yeah, it's the Crown Jewel, whatever champion. Okay, that's be like the diamond ring, in AEW that MJF wins. He pops it out and he still hits people with it. But it is Cody Rhodes, the undisputed. See that, and even I can't even say he's the undisputed WWE champion when you have a world heavyweight champion in Gunther. Isn't the fact that you have a world heavyweight champion in Gunther disputing the undisputed WWE champion in Cody Rhodes? So what if Gunther beats Cody Rhodes at Crown Jewel? Isn't he in theory disputing the undisputed WWE champion?
My oh my, we're waxing philosophically on this episode, are
I'm
we
just
not?
trying to we just talked about AEW not making sense.
True.
I've got to
Well,
be fair. We can't be like WWE fanboys and stands here. We got to say it how it is. That doesn't make a whole lot much more sense either, my friend.
no, it doesn't. And there's no
But
to
they get a
me,
pass. They always get a pass because it's WWE.
But to me, the issue is this: does the Saudi Arabian PLE need a championship to go along with it? Why? We don't need that. We don't need a speed title that on for a Twitter show that nobody watches. We stop with the titles, people. Just stop. It doesn't do you any good to have 13 championships. I don't know. No, nobody cares. Just have the event as an event. It's special enough because it's over in Saudi Arabia. You don't need a title. And might I add, that title's pretty gaudy as well. I'm just gonna throw that out there. It's pretty ugly. But I don't know. It just I think have they mentioned any other matches yet for Crown Jewel?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Let me get you what the list they have as of this
Okay.
point in time.
Okay.
Remember, they've probably already. I think they already taped the episodes for Monday and Friday, if I'm
Yes.
not mistaken. So leading into it, so yes, Cody Rhodes, the undisputed but kind of disputed WWE champion versus the world heavyweight champion in Gunther. WWE, see, they don't do the undisputed here. WWE Women's Champion Nia Jax versus Women's World Champion Liv Morgan. Huh? And you wonder why I call it Monday Champion versus Friday Champion. All right. Seth Rollins versus Bronson Reed. Randy Orton versus Kevin Owens. Emanating from the eventual Kevin Owens will probably wrestle Cody Rhodes at some point down the road because of their now
Mm-hmm.
hostilities towards each other.
Mm-hmm.
LA Knight defends the U.S. title in a triple threat match against Andrade and Carmelo Hayes. That did not make sense as far as why he was a special referee, then all decided to cause a DQ amongst the final seven. That because it was a best of 7 matches between Andrade and Hayes, and somehow he ruins it, and now instead for ruining it, the 7th match, he now has to go in a triple threat match. That was not good storytelling. I'm going to tell you that right there. That whoever wrote that, needs to go ahead and go to AEW maybe. WWE Women's Tag Champs Jade Cargill and Bianca Belair versus Kairi Sane and Io Sky versus Lash Legend, Jakara Jackson, and Chelsea Green and Piper Niven in a fatal 4-way tag team. Again, I think it's pretty simple. You keep Cargill and Belair super strong, super over as Road Warrior type individuals dominating until they decide to turn Jade Cargill, who I think is a natural heel. I think she would be a terrific as a heel, and for a WrestleMania matchup with Belair on that one. So those are my thoughts right there. But yeah, that's the matchup as of recording today.
Okay. All right. Well, then that gives an interesting look at the show, and yeah, I agree with you about LA Knight and Andrade and Carmelo Hayes. LA Knight should not have been involved in any of that storyline. Like, he should have been on the periphery as like, hey, whoever wins can get a title shot at me. And I feel like that would have worked a lot better because you could showcase Andrade and Carmelo Hayes, and which they did. They in the best of 7, but I don't think they needed to have LA Knight involved in this at all. So I agree, bad booking on that behalf. But I do have a question for you real quick.
Of course.
If we could switch, since we're talking about television product, I read recently where there's been some question with Netflix as to, does Monday Night Raw have to have a hard end? Does it have to end at a certain time period because we're streaming?
They're not going to do an overrun. They don't need an overrun because it would automatically put it in. So if they wanted to do 3 hours and 20 minutes per se, if they've got this super hot angle, they could do it. That's the great thing about being on Netflix. They could go as long as they want.
And then there was rumors about USA saying, could we get a third hour for SmackDown, which I'm not for that. I think that's a bad idea. I think that's a very terrible idea. I think, like, look, it's a Friday night. I know we're in an era where you could DVR things and all that jazz, but just the idea that historically being on TV, having a slot on Friday night was not good because a lot of people like to go out for dinner or go out and party or whatnot. I don't know if we need an extra hour of SmackDown. What do you think?
Again, telling 3 hours of storytelling is hard. I mean, yes, you do have a whole huge roster you got to be able to justify paying because you got to have them out there and making appearances, things of that nature. But in actuality, for years, telling 3 hours of storylines and things of that nature, for the most part, John, has been hard to do. I mean, you look at it from a week-to-week basis for both the WWE and then whenever they try to do it, AEW for their PLEs or whatnot, it's just hard for them to maintain interest in the, as far as whatever it is they're creating. They can do it on occasion, but it takes compelling characters in order to do so. This dates back all the way to the Attitude Era, where you had a good enough storyline with Steve Austin versus Mr. McMahon, where you could space that out over the course of 3 hours, a show within a show per se, and it would be entertaining constantly that you could throw out each hour. Now it's kind of hard because the talent, while it's gone back to more in-ring talent, more in-ring ability, and not as much as far as outside of the ring ability, as far as the promos, things of that nature, because, you're reading scripts more now. It's less off the cuff. It's less emotional, things of that nature. So it's harder to have compelling television over the course of the 3 hours. So I'm not in love with it, John, but I can understand when you have a talent roster as much as you do, as far as the many individuals that you got to be able to showcase them, or why pay them?
Yeah, absolutely. Good point. I just, like I said, I think that it's
I
I'm
still
not
don't know
in
how they're going
favor.
to do it with over 200 wrestlers in AEW. I still don't know how they do it.
Well, I think part of the problem is that they haven't maybe cut some people, and sorry to say that, and I don't want to wish anybody unemployment, but what can you do when you have almost 200 people on a roster? There's just so many spots, and that's why I'm questioning. You're going to bring in some TikTok dude that's going to take the place of somebody that is much more talented. Yeah, I'm pretty sure this TikTok guy's probably never wrestled a day in his life, but you know what I mean? Like, you're going to bring him in and he's going to take on QT Marshall. Okay, why? Nobody cares. And you could put in, I don't know, I'll just randomly pick some people. Like, you could put in a Tony Nese match, against, one of Top Flight or something like that and have a really good match. But instead, we got to deal with this TikTok dude.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Fair enough indeed. But once again, it is John Orlando from the PVD Cast, along with me, Gerald Glassford. Thanks again for watching, listening. Truly appreciate it. Make sure you check out the PVD Cast at pvdcast.com. And also for your Matlock lovers out there, Matt Talk. The old Matlock, not the new Matlock. Now that's I have to preface that
No,
every
you
time.
do. You
How many
do.
of your listeners or supposed listeners come by? Oh, it's going to be one of those shows breaking down the latest episode of Matlock. Oh, this was from 1987. That's not the kind of Matlock I was looking for. But if you want the classic Matlock, better
There
go
you
to
go.
Matlock.
Classic. Vintage,
Vintage,
as
yes.
Michael Cole would say. Vintage.
Yes. But yeah, I'm not going to talk smack on Kathy Bates or you know what she did in Misery. And I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah.
But once again, it is, of course, the state of pro wrestling. Before we head to some of the more fun things about that we're going to talk about on today's show, TNA just had its Bound for Glory as we're talking about this. And I had already sent you the message as far as what we're going to talk about. And one of the things and one of the line items I put, did TNA blow it on Joe Henry? Joe Henry earlier this year was trending worldwide. He had a song that was actually charting his several years old theme song that was charting on iTunes all around the world. People were loving it. Just general fans were interested in it. They were doing the Joe Henry dance inside. He would go to NXT and people were just going gaga over him. TNA, people going gaga over him. Everything was good about halfway through the year. So you figured, John and we didn't thought it was just, I'm sure we both assumed that just a matter of time before he's given the title. Well, the WWE released the guy, some people, as they always do every now and then. One of them was longtime WWE superstar guy who, in the latter years of his career, saw a lot of losing, Dolph Ziggler, who going by the name of Nick Nemeth at this point in time. He has found his way to rehabilitate his career, and I'm so happy for him. He's won a championship in Mexico, and earlier this year he won the TNA World Championship. But the thing is, John, they should have done something with Joe Henry. They should have done more with Joe Henry. And all these months and all these weeks, they've made it Joe Henry's climb to the top. They're trying to equate it to something that was like Cody Rhodes. Cody Rhodes is like, okay, he had this long climb to the top and didn't get it done in his first outing at WrestleMania. But they found a way to keep that climb going. And until finally he reached the mountaintop. And they were trying, you could see TNA's trying to replicate that by throwing obstacle after obstacle at him. But the problem is, this isn't the WWE, which you're able to communicate your storylines over a large audience to a mass audience on a weekly basis. TNA is 100,000 views each and every week on whatever television platform, about the same on YouTube, and 1,000, 2,000 people in arena at most. So with that said, my friend, I think they really blew their chance to go ahead and get more limelight to their organization and not push Joe Henry and give him the title belt sooner, because they did it again. They put him finally in a world title situation, and due to outside interference, didn't get done. Your thoughts on Joe Henry? Is the magic over? This time last year, or actually, I'm sorry, early in the year last year, we talked about Sami Zayn. And I was really adamant on giving him a title win over Roman Reigns. It would have been a quick title switch. You win it, and maybe a couple weeks later he would have given up. But he was so hot at that time. It is so terrible for it to be wasted. And it was wasted. But the WWE gets away with it. TNA, I don't think could have afforded that, but I believe they just did.
Well, a couple of things. First of all, I think that I read somewhere recently, maybe yesterday, I think it was. Is there a contract negotiations between Joe Henry and Anthem?
I don't know. I don't know. But if I was him, I would make sure because of his success, he could go to WWE, could go to AEW and find larger success there. I would not resign with TNA at this point.
Well, I'm just wondering if that's maybe a little bit of playing into this whole situation of, we didn't give him the title. We don't know what he's going to do in the next few months. He's got the contract dispute, or the contract's coming up. It's not a dispute, it's just coming up. Maybe that's part of it. But I think that they maybe should have pulled the trigger a little bit ago.
Because they had the
With him.
success crossing over to NXT on several shows. He was lighting it up. He was actually increasing ratings on some occasions for the NXT brand, and just again, now he's gonna. It's almost like in basketball or in sports where you have this pending free agent, and you didn't do enough to keep him there. It looks like someone that once he's given the full opportunity is really going to start to kill it, and he just walks out the door, and you get nothing in return for him. So I'm assuming right now, if that's the case about what you said about those rumors, if they are true, TNA may be going through that same type of scenario.
And real quickly, this has to do with the match that just happened this past weekend at their pay-per-view. But why is JBL randomly showing up at Independence and clotheslining people? Like he showed up. I don't understand that.
Mexico.
Yeah.
They're supposed to be, I'm assuming, an end goal. Is he returning to the ring? Is he going to go and do the independent circuit and just, go from there? I don't know. I'm assuming there's an end goal to this, John. But yeah, him interfering in the world title match
made no sense.
We should rename this, instead of the state of pro wrestling, the state of bad booking. But that's just my, at this point, because it seems like all these, they're all guilty of it. They all need to take like a step back, and man, yeah, we kind of sucked with that storyline. But okay, so yeah, it's just frustrating because Joe Henry was something that really popped, really felt good. We dedicated an episode to him, and look what happened. It's you get behind someone, the people get behind someone, they want to, in this case, believe in Joe Henry, and unfortunately, it seemed like you're telling the fans that whatever you guys think, we're not going to respect it, and we're not going to get it behind it as well.
Right. We're not going to send you home happy, which is, like we said earlier. So I don't know. It'll be interesting. I'm curious to watch TNA on Thursday and see what they do post pay-per-view. I'm just curious to see what they do there.
Well, I've heard from their TV tapings that they had people going out in stretchers left and right. So due to accidents out there in the ring with two notable wrestlers, El Hijo del Vikingo and I think Chris Bay, both out, legitimately getting hurt. So I don't know. It doesn't seem like it bodes well for the future for TNA if that keeps happening. But yeah, their roster is not large enough, even with the support of NXT, to be making mistakes, especially at the top end of the roster with whatever drawing cards that you have. And Joe Henry was that guy. And if you're not going to help and put that guy, okay, we just need to tell you a tale of Vern Gagne, AWA, and Hulk Hogan about not giving Hulk Hogan the title that he deserved because the seeds of Hulkamania had already been planted. And whatever you want to say about his politics, the stuff he said lately, and the fact that, the truth and Hulk Hogan sometimes are not far, are far apart sometimes, his stories, it just seems like, okay, gather around and let me just go into story time with you. And it kind of is crazy out there. You cannot say badly about what he did for the state of pro wrestling and the world of pro wrestling in the 80s. But it all started with that push after Rocky III, and the fact that Vern Gagne really didn't want to pull the trigger on giving him the title and just kept on doing the dusty finish over and over until he got pissed off and left to the WWE. But yeah. Same thing could happen with Joe Henry. Mind you, Joe Henry will not redefine pro wrestling, as it were, like Hulk Hogan did decades ago. But still, yeah, it's just a point where Joe Henry is a guy that you could push as a star. He has the charisma. He has, after finally all these years toiling his craft, finally found something that has connected with the fans, and to absolutely blow it like this is, again, disappointing, man. I want to start talking about positive stuff, man.
Stinks, that's the challenge. AEW, TNA, start doing really good positive stuff, because we'll talk about it. we'll revel in it.
Yes,
Yeah.
we'll see. And WWE, don't start making some bad habits yourself, which we just outlined as well. But before we head to the fun part of the conversation, I wanted to go ahead and mention again, you could go ahead and contact us if you have any questions or comments on the world of pro wrestling. Either put it below on YouTube or popculturecosmos@yahoo.com. But before we head to the fun stuff, John, I always put it at the end of the show, but I'm going to put the cheap plug now. I'm going to tag you in. What's going on with Matt Talk at the PVD Cast?
Well, Matt Talk, we just recorded a new episode last night. We were live through our various different streaming apparatuses. We had a wonderful guest host, a listener named Liz, who came on, and it was great. It was great fun. It was awesome to have a different perspective than just myself and my partner Jason. But we just recorded that, so that's available over at Matlock Podcast on Facebook, and also it's pretty much funneled through all the social media of the PVD Cast, as well as my partner Jason's podcast called the Three Geeks Podcast. So it's everywhere. That was a really cool and fun episode. And for the PVD Cast, I have a wonderful conversation with an actress by the name of Corinne Briddy. She is an actress that plays the role of Valerie Bromfield in the movie Saturday Night, which of course is about the very first episode of Saturday Night Live. So we talk about that. We talk about a couple of our other movie projects, and including a crazy story of her making puppets for Ice-T. I'll just leave it at that.
Check it out today at pvdcast.com and also wherever you get your podcasts. So, with that, my friend, we'll save the last segment of the show here for the fun stuff. Before we go into our worst wrestlers and maybe some thoughts as well as far as the upcoming on maybe some Survivor Series memories if we can get to it if we have time. I did want to mention to you that as someone who runs several YouTube channels, I know that YouTube is always making suggestions to us, and someone who has the Lakers Fast Break that's doing pretty good, they send more suggestions like, "Hey, why don't you do a second channel? You've got this large audience here with your first channel. Why don't you do a second or run a secondary or create a secondary channel?" A lot of YouTubers out there have done that. They've created, their own main channel, plus they do a secondary channel, which is splintered off. Let's say they have 1 million subscribers on their main channel, they'll have like 200,000-300,000 subscribers on their secondary channel. So it works out very favorably for them, and of course, Google and YouTube as well. So the WWE, what seems like a long overdue move. They've had this huge treasure trove of footage from not just their WWE community and WWE lifespan, but also lifespan of several promotions as well. They've talked about curating it. They've talked about showing it off. They've splintered off as far as if you're on Peacock, as far as the WWE network and all that. But they would give you sprinkles of it, just sprinkles of it on the main WWE channel. But finally, someone had the brains at corporate to say, let's make a secondary channel, an official channel for the WWE, but let's call it WWE Vault. And I'm telling you, I don't know if you got it, you watched it before I told you about it, my friend, but I'm just going to tell you right now, this is probably the best thing that WWE has done in years because of this. They have all this footage and they're showing you now on a platform. You don't have to go to the WWE network. If you can always check out something here, but it's from different stuff. It's not just classic matches from the past. It's interviews. It's also like, for instance, Gunther. He, from his days in Evolve, he sets it up as far as the champion that he is now, setting it up right there. You see commercials. You see interviews. You see stuff that they recorded in the past, like Steve Austin, as far as the Broken Skull sessions. it's just really cool. They have playlists, just cool stuff that they show along with matches from the past that just it showcases everything for you right there. And again, it's not just WWE. They do live uh, uh, airings of cards like they had the other day, a classic Omni card from WCW. Your thoughts, my friend? Is this something that you're really going to partake in, or have you already done it already?
I'm going to be honest with you. Until I started going over the notes for today's show, I'm like, WWE Vault. I don't even know. And I went to it and I'm like, oh, you know what? Because I saw over the weekend on Twitter a couple of clips of HBK doing some type of WrestleMania workout. And I'm like, I don't remember this at all. I was completely like, unless maybe somehow I missed it on one of the shows or something. And so that's on there. And I'm like, that's why people were talking about that clip. I was totally oblivious to it. I love what I see. I think it's a great thing. Look, sometimes I get in that mood where I want to watch some good wrestling, and it's dinner time, and I'll have the dinner plate. I'll sit with the little tray table that I have, and just consume not only food but great wrestling. So I'm looking forward to adding that to my rotation of cool stuff to watch during dinner.
I'm just telling you, my friend, and it's just the tip of the iceberg of what you see
Yeah.
on that channel because they have so many promotions they haven't even shown you yet, which I'm looking forward to seeing. It has just been for me something that I've really enjoyed partaking in, and looking back at it is something like, oh yeah, I remember that. Oh yeah, I remember that. Oh yeah, I remember that. And it just it showed me stuff I didn't even know about before, like when they had Carlito coming on the other day talking about a match he had in Puerto Rico against Sabu in the early 2000s. They had that footage as well. So it's
Wow.
just again, and it's not just like it's all blurred out or poor reception, like you see, you can see bits and pieces of stuff like that across YouTube and across the internet. It's actual good resolution, quality viewing stuff that they can show out there because they have the rights to it. You don't have to worry about seeing like a garbled, VHS part of it. Although they did have one like Dusty Rhodes' final match with Gold Dust, Cody Rhodes, and Dusty Rhodes. It was an FCW house show. It was his final match ever. That was on a camcorder because that's the only footage that's available for it.
Hmm.
So even watching that, yes, I know it was on a camcorder, but still, those kind of things they're doing on this channel really makes it worth watching.
Yeah, like I said, I'm excited to see what all's on there. In fact, I saw the card for the Omni, and I'm like, oh, that's a must watch. I'm gonna have to watch that. That looks good. But yeah, this is a brilliant idea. So whoever came up with this idea, I would like to know who's in charge of uploading the video. Like, how do they select if we're going to do this or we're going to do that? Are we going to show this match with Kurt Angle from this pay per view? Or are we going to watch? Are we going to show this magnificent Morocco Jimmy Snuka match from wherever? Like, who decides that? But
And
whoever
I
does,
understand about the CT and all that end of it, but they're showing the chair shots on the head again. I'm just letting
mm,
you know on that channel. So if you notice that, that's like, oh, and they're not covering up the WWF for anything like that. No, no. Shh. Don't tell anyone. Don't tell anyone. It's the way it should be shown. They're showing them in the way that they should be shown, John. And
right,
I
right.
really wanted to make sure that you and everybody out there get a chance to watch it because I discovered it and I really liked what I saw. Again, I don't have the WWE network. I'm sure if I, and the thing is, those hours and 10,000, 20,000, 100,000, 200,000 hours that are available to me on the WWE network, that's probably the best thing to have, so you can pick out anything. But sometimes when you have so much, you just like get overloaded and can't choose anything. So WWE Vault chooses this stuff for you and puts it in. And the way they arrange it, it's not just a match. It's a match. It's they're throwing different things in there. I also think that they should do a third channel, which is something they did on that WWE Vault channel. Is they went into um, their place where they have all their memorabilia, all their stuff from
Oh
all their
yeah.
shows. Yeah, they had the guy that's in charge of it. He came out. They used to do a show on A&E regarding that, where they go ahead and they find stuff all over the country from previous wrestlers and whatnot, and they return it there. But yeah, the WWE archives place where they have all this stuff waiting to be put in somewhere. I'm hoping they'll build a Hall of Fame somewhere, but yeah, they were showing. They should do an separate channel just for him to introduce and show you all the artifacts that they have from decades of pro wrestling history, my friend. That would be another channel I think people would like to watch.
Yeah, because I want to see where they put that gobbledygooker egg.
It's there. It is there. I do know for a fact it's there, my friend. So
All right.
yes, absolutely. But it is, of course, WWE Vault on YouTube. Please, I'm giving them free press. I know the WWE doesn't even know we exist, but I'm giving them free press. So if you like a wrestling show or wrestling channel outside of ours, go ahead and stop by the WWE Vault. I think you'll be glad you did.
Yeah.
But my friend, before we head on out, and I guess we're gonna probably not run. We're gonna probably run out of time before we get to any type of Survivor Series memories. So, with that though, the one thing you did want to mention for this month is the absolute worst of the worst, in your opinion, the worst wrestlers of all time. I gave a list of 5. I think is what we cut it down to. So
Yep.
you
Yep.
you have your worst 5. It's normally top 5. It's worst 5. So with that, what are your worst 5?
All right. Number 5 is Orange Cassidy. I've just never got the character. I don't understand the character. I don't understand why people think that this character is so awesome. I mean, again, we talk about character development. Here was a guy that you could have built a bunch of vignettes around explaining why he's so lazy. Like, I just don't understand it. It doesn't make sense to me. Why
I
would you be
cannot
in this?
stand the hands in the pockets. Absolutely cannot stand the hands in the
No,
pockets.
yeah, and my whole thing is, if you are that lazy and that meh about life, why are you in the wrestling business? Like, it doesn't make any sense. I've just not been a fan. I know that many people love Orange Cassidy. I just don't get it.
Just
So,
imagine if you went up against Gunther and did that hands in the pocket stuff.
he would have no chest left because he would
Yes,
have a bevy of chops coming his way.
exactly. And it just okay. We understand that now that line between kayfabe and reality is now been blurred. This him doing that blurs it even more. It's just not entertaining to me. He's actually, when he does moves, he's actually not a bad wrestler. But the problem is you can't tell most of the time because he has the gimmick that he does with the hands in the pockets and trying to do everything like mule kicks or drop kicks or whatever because he has his hands in his pockets. It just makes everything kind of disappointing and a little bit less realistic, even more than normal in the confines of a professional wrestling ring.
Yep. Did you
What's
have
number
a?
4, my friend?
Oh wait, you don't have any?
Well, I'll let you take your list first, my friend,
Okay.
and I'll go
Okay.
from there.
Number 4. I never understood and never got behind the Simpson brothers in World Class. To me, there's something about them that I'm like, these guys are lame. Like,
It
they
wasn't
just
for it wasn't for you, my friend. It was for the ladies out there.
Oh, maybe that was what the problem was.
Yeah.
Maybe that's what it
They
was.
had the hair and I guess the South African accents and yeah, I mean they weren't the strongest looking wrestlers in the world, but
No.
yeah, that is what it is.
Well, now I mean, you hit the nail on the head. That's what it is. They were for the ladies, and I was
Yes.
too stupid to notice that, I guess. But
Unfortunately, at that time in world class, there wasn't many ladies watching. There
no,
wasn't many men watching either in world class at that time either. But need I digress?
I have to stick with the train of thought of world class because Mike Von Erich was on the list, and I feel bad saying that because we now know, over the last couple of years about the plight of Mike Von Erich, But as I was thinking, as a 10-year-old kid watching world class, I knew that this guy was not very good, and I would not watch his matches. And then, to me, a non-smart, wet behind the ears, dorky wrestling fan that's 10 years old, to me, he was boring. He was a snooze fest. So,
I don't want
um,
to. I don't want to go there with Mike and Chris personally, because if that's the case, they would be among the worst. But yeah, I just won't go there with Mike and Chris. Again, because of what they probably didn't even want to go in the ring, or maybe if they wanted to go in the ring, but they just knew they couldn't do what their brothers could do,
right.
but their father kind of probably pushed them into it. Yeah, it's just a bad situation. I'm just like, I can't go there myself, even though I agree with you as far as the talent base is concerned. So
Well, number two is Greg Gagne. Never liked Greg Gagne. Just there was something that he was lanky and he was too
it's
goody
not
two shoes.
believable. He's actually pretty steady in the ring, had his
Oh
head
yeah,
scissors, drop kick, but the fact that he's tried to him trying to body slam Hogan, or just
Brody.
anybody else. Yeah, yeah, just
Yeah,
anybody. Just it just doesn't look realistic. I get it, because it's just the physique factor was not that good.
yeah. He was so milk toast. I guess is the best way to describe.
Okay.
He just never. I never dug him. And number one on my list, though he did eventually get maybe not so petite. I could never stand Kendall Windham. Like of all the wrestlers as a
Man,
kid,
you just go
and
for all these wrestlers that have like no muscles whatsoever,
I
man.
that's what it was. Like, yeah, because Kendall Windham was like a buck 65 when he
What
was
if
in
we put
Florida.
all those wrestlers on your list together for a bodybuilding show? Would anybody actually win? I don't think so.
I think Orange Cassidy would probably have the best physique out of them all.
That's saying something right there.
That
Okay.
is.
All
But
right.
there you go. There's my list. Kendall Windham was number one. Just never liked him.
All right. Here's my list, for better or for worse. My worst wrestlers. Again, if I want to go back into the 80s or even 70s, the wrestling at then in a lot of places would be like, man, these guys stink. These guys are wrestlers. Man, this is so horrible. You could go world class, mid south. You could go to a whole bunch of places and find some really terrible wrestlers, John. We would go back if we watched it right now, and just, yeah, some of it's just really, really bad to watch. So I kind of left that out of the equation for me. I kind of went from the 90s on. So for me, number 5, Ronda Rousey. And if you didn't put her into a match with Charlotte Flair on a street match or something where she could brawl, if you tried to put her in a regular wrestling match, amazing enough, this UFC champion was certainly not a champion in the ring as far as it's concerned. And I'll just leave it at that. It just led to a lot of boring wrestling. And she was in there with a lot of talented people. And the only way they could make it work was doing something as far as on a brawling basis with her. Number 4 is Giant Gonzalez.
Oh,
I mean, a lot of that had to do with size, and just the ability. He could just not make anything exciting, and also the fact that he was just his gimmicks, especially the one in the WWE. That was a terrible costume that they gave him. But need I digress on that? Number 3 is Mike Shaw, aka Makan Singh, aka Bastion Booger, aka Norman the Lunatic, aka Friar Ferguson. He's someone who probably made a nice living when he was doing it, but man, he wasn't a good wrestler. He wasn't easy to watch, and he was never given a good gimmick. So for me, that's a negative all 3 accounts. But again, it is what it is, and I'm sure he earned a nice living during his time in wrestling. Number 2 is Brodus Clay, aka Tyrus, aka I can't believe the NWA gave him a world championship run. Uh, he is probably one of the most uninteresting wrestlers I've ever seen. And I'll just leave it at that. I don't care how many tattoos he had; it was just boring to watch. And number 1, probably the most boring wrestler. I think you already know who it is because I've already complained about him before. Whenever he comes on my screen, he's instant change of channel for me, and that's Baron Corbin. Baron Corbin is absolutely, to me, the most boring wrestling to watch ever. And again, I don't mean any deference to him on a personal level. It's just I've just never been interested in anything that he's ever done. I don't care if it's the happy-go-lucky one, gimmick he's done, or badass, or whatever. He's got the WWE or NXT, to me, it's been like change the channel is what I've been doing for him. And I'll leave
Where's
it
he at, by the way? I don't think I've seen Baron Corbin in a while. Last I saw, he was on NXT, wasn't he?
Then I think he went back up to the WWE when Braun Breaker, because they had their team together, and then
Oh, okay.
Braun Breaker went up, and I think he went up too. But frankly, I hope he's behind the scenes and stays behind the scenes, and we'll just leave it at that. But John, always great to have you here, my friend. I cannot thank you enough for being a part of what we're doing each and every time out when you and I go ahead and step into the ring for the state of pro wrestling. Any last thoughts before we head on out?
No. Well, one thing I would like to throw out there real quick is I saw that Dawn Marie returned to the world of professional wrestling in NXT, and that makes me happy because I always was a big fan of Dawn Marie.
Well, NXT is heading to, at the time of this recording, the 2300, aka ECW Arena. And so they're bringing back all the stops. Bully Ray is going to be there. Dawn Marie is going to be there. I'm sure they'll have some more ECW related things going to happen there. So we'll see what happens as NXT, now on the CW, try to do some interesting things and leave it to them. The one thing I like seeing, the one place we can say is being booked right, is NXT right now. So, and I'll leave it at that. John, always great to have you here. Always great to have you as my tag team partner when we are talking the state of pro wrestling each and every time right out, whether it's the PVDcast.com, Matt Talk, or any of us right here at the Pop Culture Cosmos.